Hey everyone, welcome to the first full episode of Stand By Go, a podcast from Asheville, North Carolina, dealing with all things theater. I'm happy to have my first guest with me today. He's a good friend of mine, actor Dillon Giles. How are you doing today, Dillon?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today, John?
I am also fantastic, which is a hilarious word that you use that we will get to later. We will get to as we go. Thanks for being on the podcast today. I was just telling Dillon that this is the first one, which means that we may have some issues, either technically or I just have no idea what to say. So please, Dillon, be nice to me, and all you listeners also be nice to me. I am actually sitting in Dillon's room right now in Asheville. And there are, how many VHS tapes are in your room right now?
1,500 plus. I don't know the actual number anymore because I've bought 30, 40, 50 more.
1,500 plus VHSs. And they're sitting on very nice custom-made shelving units that you made. And we are also surrounded by a bunch of theater posters. So are these all posters of shows that you've been in?
Yes, they are. Every show that I have in here is a show that I've been in from Florida to here as well, all the way from high school up until the last show I did, which was Wizard of Oz. And I actually have a couple shows that I don't even have here because I didn't get a poster from them.
Nice. And are there any, for the folks who aren't in here looking, any repeat posters from repeat shows that you've done?
There are, actually. I've done Wizard of Oz twice. So I have the one that I did here at Asheville Community Theater. I also did it at the Henniger Center in Melbourne, Florida. Both times I was the Scarecrow. And then I also have done West Side Story twice. The first time coming out of middle school, going into high school as an ensemble dancer and guitar. And then I did it in right out of high school, probably 2 or 3 years after high school. I was Tony at the Cocoa Village Playhouse down in Cocoa Village, Florida.
Very nice. So we've heard you say that you lived in Florida. Can you give us a little bit of your story? Not necessarily theater story. We'll get to that in a minute, but just like your story of like where you were born and raised and how you got to Asheville.
Yeah, of course. I born and raised in Merritt Island, Florida. For those of you listening, that's real close to Orlando, about 45 minutes to an hour southeast of it. So it's a nice little town right next to Kennedy Space Center where they launched the shuttles. Lived there my whole life. Went to school there, and then I graduated, and my parents moved up here because Asheville, North Carolina is where we always vacationed. Mm-hmm. We vacationed here my whole life. Every year we'd go camping or glamping, or we'd come up and just do, see the leaves or come see snow. And then after I was in Florida for a little while, I was just needed a change of scene. And my parents were like, have been trying to get me and the rest of my siblings to come up here for basically since they moved up. So I finally moved up, and then my sister moved up just this past year as well. So they have 3 of the 5 kids here now.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so I've heard you talk to me a little bit about your high school and your high school theater, and it made me super jealous. So why don't you tell everybody who's listening a little bit about your high school theater?
Okay. Well, my high school theater was the Merritt Island High School Theater. It was the Merritt Island Performing Arts Center. We were actually the biggest theater in the area as far as our auditorium. I think it seats between 700 and 800 people. Huge stage, probably twice the size of most stages in this whole area, or even down in Florida, the rest of them weren't that big. Had, a 20, 30 rail fly system, state-of-the-art sound system. They had a whole tech crew that was it was a class at the school that ran it. And so we did, crazy stuff all the time. We did Beauty and the Beast. We had a flying company come in to make the Beast fly at the end. We had crash mats for falling off the backstage. We had a hologram rose that slowly dropped petals as the show went on.
And didn't you have champagne bottles that went off during Be Our Guest?
We did. We had champagne fireworks essentially spray out of these giant styrofoam hand-carved bottles that had Beauty and the Beast carved in French on them. That came down from the ceiling. I was Lumiere in that play, and it was at the end of Be Our Guest. They came down from the ceiling while we were doing our big kick line, and I hit the big final note, and boom, from the sides. It was great. They were a fan of pyrotechnics over at that theater. We did Peter Pan and had fire pots go off for when the Indians came in, and real sword play. Did a flying company for that one as well. We went pretty all out on most of our shows. Even our straight shows, like Noises Off, we had a 2-story set on a revolve that turned all the way around so that you could do the second act with the backstage view that you're supposed to do.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. So we've heard about your journey starting in Florida and then coming back and coming up to Asheville. Tell us about your theater journey. How did you get started? I don't even think that's something I know. You and I have done 2 shows together now. The first one was a year ago. And that was your Asheville debut, right? In Footloose at Asheville Community Theater. It was also, I had done something in 35 Below, but that was my first main stage show. And then we both did Wizard of Oz, where you were the Scarecrow and I was the Lion. I was just telling somebody today that if somebody asked me if you could do one show every weekend for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I think mine would have to, and like role, not just show.
Oh, that's a
I
tough
think
one.
it would have to be the Cowardly Lion. I could play the Cowardly Lion every weekend for the rest of my life.
Oh, I feel that. That's, in that situation, I'd either have to go Tony West Side Story or Quasimodo and Hunchback of Notre Dame.
That's another one that I really, really want to do.
Oh, it's
an
amazing show.
But I also kind of just want to, but I kind of want to stage manage that. Like the amount of work. Yeah. The amount of work that would be. For anybody who hasn't listened to the Hunchback music, you need to go do it.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot darker version of the show, but it's very well done. And it still has a couple, Disney-fied moments like Topsy Turvy Day and all that. They have this classic Disney moments you need, but then also some other new songs that are fantastic. Made of Stone is a great one. And then, of course, you have like Hellfire and just some real good classics in there.
But if you like choral music, if you're a fan of like church choral music, you will absolutely love Hunchback because it's got a big organ and it has an entire choir. I had a friend who did it in South Carolina and Georgia. And she was part of the choir, and so just go listen to that music if you haven't listened to that show yet. So I got off topic. So go ahead and tell us about your theater journey, how you got started, and how you got to where you are now.
Wow. Well, the first show I ever did was in kindergarten. I played the ringmaster of the ABC Circus.
Nice.
I was the only person in the whole show that had lines. I had a little top hat and this cape. And I sat there on the edge of the stage and was like, A is for amazing acrobats. And then we had kids come out and do an acrobat thing, and B is balancing bears and stuff like that. And it was just fun. That was my first time ever really doing theater. And then a couple years later, I ended up doing like a Charlie Brown Christmas at my church. And that was probably my first 2 experiences. And then I did a couple shows with like my chorus in like late elementary school, 5th and 6th grade. And then I took a break and I started doing theater again at the end of 8th grade. I was Aladdin in Aladdin Jr. and Toy Boatin' in High School Non-Musical, which is a farce play on High School Musical. And it's terribly, terribly wonderful. And then I pretty much have gone since then. I haven't stopped. In high school, most years we did 3 shows. So I did 2 or 3 shows a year in high school for every year. And then I came out of high school and I think I took a couple months of break. And then I started doing community theater. And I did that for a couple years, started getting more lead roles. I had a lot of lead roles when I was in high school. And then I came out and had to like get into the scene in community theater and no one really knew me or what I could do. So I started out with like some little ensemble roles, and then I think my first one that I got that was bigger was Perchik in Fiddler on the Roof, which I believe you also were.
Yes. Good little connection. In fact, we talked about in our dressing room a lot in Footloose that there were 4 or 5 people in that show who had all played Perchik. It was like you, me, Adam.
I think Jeff.
Yeah, and maybe there was one more, so we had either 4 or 5 people who have all played Perchik.
Oh, yeah. Good role. And then I guess after that, I started getting more, and then I got Tony and West Side, and that really spurred me, I guess, into thinking you really can do this, because I've wanted to do this for most of my life. Everyone goes through the phase, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a crime investigator, I want to be a forensic. And I always wanted to be an actor. I also didn't know how to sing until probably like 8th grade, and I had to teach myself. I never had any training. I thought I could sing. I performed at my church. My parents were like, "You're so good." Then, like 3 years later, I actually learned how to sing and was able to do it. And they're like, "Oh, that's amazing. You were terrible." And I was like, "What? No one told me."
The
like,
people at church told you that you were terrible after,
No.
because what they typically do is, I see anytime I perform at church, this is which I haven't done in a long time. But I always feel like when a lot of people come up and tell me I did a really good job, that I really didn't. Because
Yeah,
like
it's
the
almost
more
fake.
people who do it are
Yeah.
like, "You did so great."
So great. Oh, it's amazing.
Right?
And you're
I'm
like,
sure,
I don't feel good
there's,
about
but
this
there's always
anymore.
like that handful of people that like will tell you the truth. So if they tell you that you did good, you're like, okay, I did
well.
fine.
Yeah.
But
So,
if the lady who always sits on the third pew on the left tells you, the more she's like, "You did great," probably the worse you did.
What'd I mess up?
Yeah.
yeah. And then,
So I'm going to touch back on that. How you taught yourself to sing,
Pretty
which is
much.
crazy because I've been listening to you sing for the last year, and you're fantastic.
Thank you.
You have this beautiful like tenor voice.
Stop.
But did you learn how to like engage your diaphragm? Did you learn that, or somebody have to tell you that?
So when I was going into high school, I in middle school, I did a little bit of chorus. And when I did that, that's where I kind of more honed in on what I was able to do and that I had a decent voice, because my teacher was like, "Oh, you're fantastic. Wait, you got to sing more," and like give me little solos and things like that. And they had a private audition-only class at my high school. It was called Island Singers, and it was the mixed ensemble group of the most advanced. It was the highest level you can get. And they only took in one freshman male a year.
Wow.
And so I went and auditioned, and I got in my first year, and I stayed in there for 4 years. But I kind of already came in not really knowing that I knew what I was doing, but I did know what I was doing. Like I would do my diaphragm. I just didn't know that's what was happening.
Right.
And one of the things they were surprised in, and I still kind of have this, it's gone away over the years, not quite as clean as it used to be, but it's really hard to find my flip. If I go up through into my falsetto, if I'm like just doing scales up, most people can't truly tell where my flip is. They give it like a 4-note range, and they're like, somewhere in there you switch, because now it sounds different, but it's hard to pinpoint, which was just a cool thing that they pointed out to me, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a cool trick. So I just kind of, once I got in there, that my only training I had was just chorus class. She would work with the whole group and be like, "You need to do this and do this." And I had an amazing chorus teacher, Deborah Davis. She came out of FSU, and they put out wonderful chorus teachers. So really, she, along with Janora Dupre, who was my high school drama teacher, they really gave me the courage and encouragement that I needed to just pursue it and really tell me, like, you have the skills and you have the talent. Just focus on it and work on it, and then you'll get where you want to go.
Yeah. Do you think that, going back to the choral, being in a choir, do you think that really helped you in what you're doing now with like musical theater, just being in a choral class every day? Yeah, you're not getting a ton of like solo stuff, but you're learning how to sing with an ensemble and blend and just get all of that from people who are older and a great teacher.
I do think that was really important, because I still can't really, like, I can't go sit down and play a piano. I could if I go real slow, but I'm not great at that. But chorus gave me the ability to sight read very, very well. Right. So now as soon as someone starts a song, if they're like, it starts here, I can usually figure it out from there with them playing. Or if I listen to a song once or twice, I can usually then look at the music and I connect the dots in my head to how it's supposed to sound and what it looks like on the paper. And so my sight reading ability really came from chorus, and that's a really important thing you need when you're doing musical theater. Yeah,
I agree. I did a lot of chorus, not in high school. My high school didn't have a chorus program until like my junior year, and then at that point I was an orchestra kid. So I played bass all the way from 6th grade all the way through 12, and we were the best orchestra in the county. And so that was my main focus. I wish I would have done more choral stuff, but I did sing at my church. So like I had some choral aspects, and that director, Jason Britt, was really great. And he gave me some solos and stuff, but just the fact that I sang twice a week, just Wednesday practice, Sunday morning, because singing it's a muscle. Mm-hmm. And so like if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So where were we on your journey? You did high school theater, the great high school theater, community theater. And so when you moved up to Asheville, how long were you here before you auditioned for your first show?
So when I moved up here, I wanted to audition immediately, and I believe I did almost like 2 or 3 months after I moved up here. I just needed to, figure out, get a job and get my life moved up here and really situated and feel comfortable before I started, trying to be in the community. And I did that, and I auditioned actually for Snowbound.
Okay.
Which was an original show.
The first one or the second one?
The first one, actually. Okay. I believe.
It was the one right. Was it the one right before Footloose?
No, I think it was the one before that. Because Full Monty was right before Footloose, right? A couple months before. Because I was going to audition for that, but couldn't. When I first moved up here, I joined a lot of acapella groups.
So yeah, it was so it was Full Monty, because that was the last show of that season.
Okay.
And then they did Avenue Q. Yes. And then Snowbound, and then Footloose.
Okay. I also auditioned for Avenue Q. But at the time when I first moved here, before I got into theater, because I wasn't sure where to go and which theaters, I wanted to do a bunch of research. But I knew that I wanted to sing. I've been doing a cappella music since my freshman year in high school as a tenor and bass. And then in my senior year, I learned how to beatbox. And I have been beatboxing ever since. I started a group in Florida, too, called Fermata Stars, out of the theater program, actually. It was mainly for children, but they didn't have anyone that could do bass or beatboxing, so I just stood in and subbed in for some of that, just helping out. But when I got up here, I joined a group called Shaboom, which was a doo-wop a cappella group, and then I joined a barbershop choir. And so I was doing all this, so when I went out for these shows, they wanted me, but I literally gave them, I think, 2 days a week that I was available.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like,
can't do that.
I can't. I don't.
I've been in those casting rooms. We just can't do it. Yeah,
I know. And so I got messages like, "We'd really like you to come out, but you got to clear your schedule." So then I finally cleared out, and I was like, "Look, theater is my dream. I love doing all this, a cappella music. I love it." And I was still in a group until just recently for another year, where I sang everything from alto down to bass, and it was great. It's a great time, but it just kind of gets in the way sometimes of theater, and theater's my true passion and dream. So then I finally auditioned for Footloose, and when I auditioned for Footloose, I actually had long hair down to my lower back, almost like the middle of my back, and a beard down to the collar of my shirt. And I came in, and Jerry Crouch was the director for that show. And as soon as I came in, he went, "I've heard of you. If you want the role I think you want, that's all gotta go." And I was like, okay, I guess. And then ended up going through the process and competing against a couple really great singers to try to get into that role, and ended up getting it across from Ann Lowell and as Ariel, and had a great time. Met a lot of the people that I now work a lot of theater around here with, and it was kind of a great introduction and a good starting point for getting into the area, especially coming in your first show being the lead of the show.
Right.
So it was nice.
Right.
It was good. And then from there, it's just kind of been, I actually got 2 shows from that show. I was requested to come be in Oliver at Heart and Mamma Mia at Heart.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So it ended up, opening some more doors for me. And then I've met a bunch of people, and now hoping to see what this next season holds.
And now when people say, "Oh, Dillon Giles," they're like, "Oh yeah, I know him." Mm-hmm. You've been really busy this last year.
I've been very busy.
Just show-wise. I
think I ended up doing 5 or 6 shows this past year.
Yeah.
I did. I pretty much didn't stop. Most of my shows was while I was doing the show, I was rehearsing for the next show that was opening like the weekend after I closed my show. So a lot of overlapping as far as doing the shows went, which is good though, because that's how it is in the real world. So it's good real world experience.
Absolutely. So we've heard about your entire journey of being in theater, starting from very young all the way to now. What has been one of or some of your favorite memories of doing theater? It can be like a certain role. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, what's been your favorite role?" And I'm really wanting to ask, like, what are some memories that you have that just kind of stick out to you?
Wow, that's a tough one. There's so much. There's so many good memories. All right, so I do know back when I was in Florida, I did Big Fish, which is a great show. Love it. And I actually at the time had been, when hanging out with friends, dabbling in, I bought at a garage sale a couple of little stilts, like little, that by the time you were standing on them, you're maybe like half a foot off the ground, and practiced with them. And I ended up auditioning for the role of Carl the Giant, and had to be on drywall stilts, 6 feet up in the air for the show, and had to dance on them. So that whole process of learning how to dance on stilts, I had to kick, I had to jump, I had to do, little quick steps and, kick ball changes and step ball changes and, all kinds of stuff, and spread my legs and let a guy slide through, all kinds of fun stuff. That was a really, really fun experience and, something to throw on the resume of a special skill. Being able to
absolutely.
stilt walk.
Absolutely. My home theater, the one I grew up in, Cape Fear Regional Theater in Fayetteville, they have, and forgive me, I forget the name of the company, but they have a company that comes in and takes shows that we know. The last one I think they did was Little Mermaid, and they add circus acrobatics.
Very nice.
I don't know
awesome.
if they did stilts in Little Mermaid, but they do like silks and like the big hoop that goes up.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. They did that with that, and they did it with Susical.
Ooh, that's a good show.
Yeah, a company that comes in and takes these like typically kids shows and makes it even more fun to watch because they're adding the circus acrobatic parts to it.
I like that.
So definitely look for that company.
I'll
look it up and I'll let you know, and I'll let anybody who's listening know. I'll put it on my Facebook or something like that.
Nice.
So being on stilts was really fun. Do you have another one?
I do.
Okay.
I do. So actually, I was in the show Rent. I was the understudy for Mark, and I played Steve, the guy that sings that "Will I Lose My Dignity?" And we opened that show on the day that they legalized gay marriage in America.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow!
That was it was just an emotional show, and it was really big, and everyone came out. And it was just a really surreal kind of experience that it all just happened to line up. It was such an impactful show in the gay community.
Right.
It's a very
doing that show on
of
that
all
day.
shows, Rent. Yeah, it was insane.
So I know this about you because we've been friends for about a year, but you are not a full-time professional actor.
I am not.
That is not what pays the bills.
That is not.
So what is your, and I'm going to use a term that we like to use in the business, quote unquote, the biz.
The biz.
That it's your survival job, right?
Yes.
It's the job that pays for your bills for the apartment,
so
that you can enjoy doing theater. So what is your survival job?
My survival job, I work at Jennings Builder Supply and Hardware as a door machine operator. It's me and my boss, and that's it. And I build doors for a living. We get door slabs in, and then I hang them on a frame and put hinges on them, and then take them over to a table and build the rest of the frame around them and add on the stop. And it's at some points it's pretty backbreaking labor. Some of these doors are 150, 175, 200 pounds on the heavy end. Some of them are 30.
Right.
That's nice, but big old doors, and that's my survival job. I actually work with my father.
Right. Wow. Yeah. How's that? Do you enjoy working with your
It's
father?
nice. We don't work in the same department, so I pretty much see him in the morning when he gets there, and he actually leads the kitchen installation department, or all the cabinet installation for that matter. So he usually comes in, gets what he needs, and then adios, and off he goes for the day.
Right. And so if I remember, that's not like a 9 to 5 job. You're usually there like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
right?
it's 7 to 4.
Right.
7 to 4, which works perfectly for I need to get out for theater. Because, then that gives me enough time. Usually I can run home, and if I need to shower or grab a bite to eat before I get to the theater around, 6 or 6:30. Because, some of the places like Hart and Sart and Parkway, they're all about 45, 50 minutes away from where I live in South Asheville. So, I got to account for the drive time. But usually it gives me enough time to just, if nothing else, just swing home and just relax for just, 10, 15 minutes before I got to get going right back at it again.
Right. And rehearsals are tough. Like, especially if you're in a musical and you're like footloose, choreography rehearsals that I wasn't in because I was an adult. And so I didn't get to dance.
Lucky.
And so I really wanted to.
Oh, man.
I really wanted to. And I think Tina wanted me to as well. But I would come in and watch those rehearsals, and I'd be tired just watching. So, like, you work with doors, 150-pound doors all day, and then you go to, a 3-hour choreography rehearsal. How do you balance that? How are you able to balance work and play, which is also sometimes feels like work?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's really just my passion for it. My main goal is to become a professional actor. That's where I'm aiming in the direction of, I'm starting with paid gigs in the area that are on the smaller scale levels, so to build up your resume out of the community theater area, so it's not just free performances, and actually just get a name and make connections so that I can go to the next level. I'm hoping within the next year I'm going to be making some trips to New York and trying to do like cattle call auditions or tour auditions, also, really anything, really voiceover work and stuff like that. I guess just the going to work and doing the job, just knowing that it lets me keep doing this, which is all I want to do. I took a month break between Wizard of Oz and now The Fantastics, and I wanted nothing more than to just be on a stage again the whole time I was there. Like, it's nice to have your nights to yourself and sit at home and relax or hang out with your girlfriend or like just be at home, but it's just that something about being on the stage. It's an addiction that you just don't want to get rid of.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I actually did Miracle on 34th Street at ACT.
Fantastic job, by the way.
Thank you. Right after Wizard of Oz. So I auditioned the day after we opened, after opening weekend for Wizard of Oz. And we started rehearsals the next week. And that ran until December 20th. And I haven't really done anything since then. I'm assistant directing Frozen Jr. with like the Tanglewood Kids at ACT, but that meets like twice a week. So the last couple weeks have just been like,
you almost get antsy.
Yeah, people are like, "Oh, you have some downtime." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want downtime.
I don't want downtime at all."
But like it's either like 3 weeks of 2 rehearsals a week or nothing. Or I'm about to spend 33 straight days at ACT.
Yeah.
Between doing tech for Fantastics, doing Frozen Jr., and stage managing Little Women. It's going to be 33. It's going to be a straight month.
Oh, yeah.
And people are like, oh my gosh. But I'm like, no.
That's what
I'm
I love.
excited. Like, I love the fact that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll be downstairs, assistant directing rehearsal, and then it ends at 6 o'clock, and I just go straight upstairs and start a new rehearsal for Little Women. It's super fun being busy. And actors and stage managers, and anybody who does anything with theater, we want to be busy. Busy is good for us, because when we're not busy, we get antsy and we get crazy.
Busy means you're doing something right. If everyone wants you and you're keeping busy and keeping doing stuff, it means
Yeah.
You're on the right track.
It means you're getting gigs.
It
means you're getting booked. Hashtag booked, right?
Hashtag booked.
Hashtag booked. I've seen that with a lot of my actors and stage management friends. Hashtag booked, and that's all you want, especially like on my end, stage management. Like I'm booked out through July 4th right now.
Very nice.
So beginning of Frozen Jr. was January like 12th, 13th, like that. So that's
a good 6 months.
6 months.
That's what you want. You want to be booked out for 6 months to a year if you can.
And I already have like Shanda with ACTs. Like, what do you want to do next year? It was like, let me
sign me up. Let's do it all.
I said, let's do it. I want to stage manage. I want to be on stage. I want to do it all. The problem is when you overbook yourself, and you literally have to be 2 places at once, and that's when it gets crazy.
That's what
I've done it. I happened during Footloose. I was in a performance, but I was supposed to also be stage managing a rehearsal for Alice in Wonderland. And it was happening at 35 Below. So I actually brought in stage managers I know from UNCA to come in and just run that rehearsal for me. But like when I wasn't on stage or during intermission, I would run downstairs, check in, see how everything's going.
Very nice.
And I'm not like giving anything away. It was on the rehearsal report, so I wasn't going to be there. So it's not like people in the office would be like, John, why weren't
guys?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I always have great stage management friends who always come in and step in. So I'm going to kind of go back to like your survival job, and you work with doors. Do you actually see... and if the answer is no, like that's okay. But like, do you see like theater helping you with your job, or your job helping you with theater in any type of way?
I actually do. So in a couple different ways. First off, I've done in the past, back in my high school, during the days, especially in my senior year when I wasn't doing stuff, I would go help with the tech crew. So like when we did Peter Pan, we built a actually me specifically and my girlfriend at the time, built a 7-foot waterfall on top of a 6-foot raised platform that fell down into a pond. And we were actually in charge of building that, just us. So that kind of helped give me some beginnings of working with power tools and construction measurements and stuff like that. And so my job now uses that. So it helped me that in that way. And now it also helps. So when someone needs something at a show, like when I did Mamma Mia, I did rigging when I was in high school. And that's more just being in the tech world and working with tools and stuff and just being around heavy weights. I went and helped Mamma Mia. I helped run the rigging system while I was acting in the show.
Oh, okay.
Because there were some big changes that needed 3 or 4 pulleys going at once. Yeah. And there was only one person. So I would help out and do it with her. So in that way, it helps. Also, in the door shop, I get to be pretty much by myself. My boss goes over in the table and I work on the machine. So I put in my headphones and I sing all day long. Right. You can hear it echoing out into the yard. Everyone's like, please make him stop. Please, for the love of everything, make it stop. And it's just me belting out show tunes. So it's like I almost have a constant vocal warm-up I'm doing or, rehearsing or in some ways learning. I'm just finding new shows that I've never listened to and listening to the soundtrack and then, trying to figure out the story from there without even going and reading the story. Like, can you develop what's happening just by listening to the songs and just learning all these different ways that shows work and what works in a show and what doesn't and what I enjoy and what I don't, so that it helps me decide how I want to further my career and what shows I want to pursue and what avenues I want to go with, things like that.
Right. And kind of going off of that, you do a ton of shows, throughout the year. How do you go about picking which shows to audition for?
That's a tough one. This year especially is going to be a tough one. There are several season auditions I'm going for. Really, a lot of it's just shows that I know I want to do. And then sometimes it's if I have a free space and I know I like this show ends in June and then this next one doesn't run until the end of July. I'm like, I want to do that show because it helps fill that space that I don't want to have just waiting. So really it's just starts with what I really want, because sometimes there's dream roles that I want to go for that are coming in the area. Like right now they're about to do auditions for Music Man over at Heart.
Oh, such a great show.
Yes.
Have you done that?
Amazing show. I actually was cast in it as an ensemble member back in Florida, but I had to take a new job, which made me unable to do the show. So I got through about 2 weeks of rehearsals and had to drop. It's the only show I've actually ever had to drop out of.
What'd you get cast as?
I was just ensemble.
Oh, okay.
Ensemble. I think I was one of the main dancer guys, and then
Were you in the train scene at the beginning?
I was in the train scene at the beginning, and I was in the Wells Fargo wagon. I had one of those solo lines.
I don't know how much of that we can sing. I actually haven't done the research to know. I should probably do that.
What's the copyright on that?
Note to John. I'm writing this down. Research. How long of songs and shows can I sing? And if there's no music behind it, can I just acapella it the whole thing?
What if I do it in the wrong key? Does that help? Can
I? I was in Music Man. I was the countertenor in the quartet.
Oh, very nice.
So I got to
love
sing the
quartet work in shows.
I got to do the really high ice cream. And it got a laugh every night because everybody thought I was going to be the bass.
Yes.
Because I was the biggest one. I was the biggest one of the four of us. And the guy who played bass, his name is Terry. He was like one of the smallest ones. So he did the bass, and I'm like, who's going to do the... And it was me, and I got a laugh every night. That was back before I worked summer camp, and completely like ruined my voice. So I'm not as much of a tenor as I used to be. I used to be pretty high tenor. I mean, obviously, to be able to do the countertenor stuff. But yeah, now I'm more of a baritone bass. Which is fun to get to know and figure out like what roles.
Have to relearn your voice in a way.
Yeah, kind of, because I knew what I really wanted, what I used to really want to do.
But now you've had to change your view on it.
And the majority of them actually are like all stuff I'm going to do in 20 years.
Yeah,
it's like The Preacher and Footloose.
Yes,
but especially only if they bring back the solo in the second act that they cut.
That solo needs to be in there. It's so good.
And then Tevye.
Oh,
all those like Tevye, older roles. Tevye
role.
would be
There's
so
a
much
role
fun.
right there. You got the beard for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so let's say you've picked a show. How do you prepare yourself for an audition?
auditions are actually my least favorite part of the
think they're
whole
every actor's
entire
least
acting
favorite part.
process.
Yeah.
I hate it. I guess everyone has their own little tricks and twists and how they do it. I usually just go specifically based. It's gonna be interesting to do season auditions. I've never done a season audition.
Yeah, I'm
'Cause
thinking
then you
about
have to
going with
really
you.
be specific on you want to pick something that leans towards what you want, but you also want it to be able to show enough that if there's another show in the season that has a wider range, you don't want to just stick to one little thing.
Right.
So usually I find a song, if I'm doing just like a single show audition, I would pick a song that leans towards either the style of singing or the actual vocal range and type. Like for Music Man, I'm going to audition. I would probably pick a lower song, but I'd want it quick because he has a lot of very quick, almost like speaking, rapping
Trouble.
parts. Yes, you
For
got
Trouble.
Trouble and everything. It's very quick with the tongue, and you want to be able to show that you have that dexterity. So that's usually what I do. And then I'm a very badly known procrastinator. So I tend to wait until 2 weeks to a week before the audition, and I learn my song, I memorize it, and then I go in and audition. And as far as monologues go, I haven't had to audition with a monologue for a long time. I haven't done a straight show. But right now, I have a couple prepared specifically from the Fantastics because I have to do 6 in that. So I'm using those as my monologues right now. Some of them are real deep and intense, and they'll work well for showing some variety.
Right. I'm actually thinking about going out there with you for that season audition.
There's
a couple things out of Heart this year that I kind of want to do.
Got some good shows coming up. Good straight shows, too.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, but I'm also a very bad procrastinator. Yeah. Do you want to know when I picked my song for Wizard of Oz?
I'm going to go with the day before.
Oh, Friday, yeah. I auditioned on Sunday, and I picked my song on Friday.
Oh, I've done that.
And the reason why is because, and I'm gonna follow up this little story, because I auditioned for Footloose with my go-to song. I butchered it. I did very poorly on it because I couldn't find my old sheet music, so I found new sheet music, which was a key higher.
Oh no!
And I was nervous, and it was the first time I auditioned for Jerry, and so I was just like, and so I couldn't hit the high note, and I was like so under it, and I was just like, I really hated it. And so, but I was like, I don't want to audition with the same song for Jerry, so I had to pick something different, and so I picked something from the producers. It is not in my head right now, but nice. I auditioned with that.
That's the other thing is figuring out if you're auditioning for a director you've already auditioned for, always picking something different that shows a different style. So even maybe for their next season, if they're thinking, who are we going to do? What are we going to do? I only know Dillon sings like this. So pick something different so they see that and go, oh, you could also perform this, or you could sing in this show. So that's another aspect of picking the audition, which is why it's such a pain.
Do you have a problem finding like a song that meets the style of the show? Because that's always my biggest thing. Because a lot of them are like bring 32 bars, 16 bars of something in the style of the show. I had such a hard time doing that for Fantastics.
It's tough. It's become easier the more that I listen and learn shows over and over. So it's become a lot easier with me, like comparing styles and matching styles, or like sometimes I won't do it like completely in the style, but I'll pick a song that has similarities. So, like if it's a rock show, I won't necessarily come out with a rock song, but like, you could do a country pop song or something that has the range you're looking for, and then if you can just change that song to match, like if they want a little grit, show you can do some grit just in a spot. Right. So it's a lot of that when I'm trying to find styles.
Right. So you did Hands on a Hard Body.
I did.
At ACT. What did you audition with?
Oh wow! What did I audition with for Hands on a Hard Body?
That's like 6 months ago. So if you don't understand, if you don't remember, it was further than that. It was probably April.
Yeah.
April of last year. So a long time ago.
That's a really good question. I'm pretty sure I stuck with... Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I auditioned for that show.
Do you remember what you auditioned with for Footloose?
Footloose.
Which is even further back.
Oh, even further back. I'm pretty sure for Footloose I did... I think I actually did 76 trombones, which had nothing to do with getting the role. I think it was last minute decision. I just had a song that I knew, and 76 trombones is so, everyone kind of knows it to a degree, even if you don't have the line, the words perfect. You know the rhythm and how it goes. Yeah. So I think I ended up coming out with that. I know I've done that once or twice this past year doing auditions. And then, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like every once in a while I'll find something that just strikes my fancy that I'll go for that's a higher song, but no.
Right. So I have this philosophy when it comes to auditioning that it makes me feel a little bit easier, like at ease when I go into auditions. And it's probably a horrible philosophy. I'm sure some directors, when they hear this, are going to be like, that's terrible. I want to be on this podcast so I can tell them how terrible of an idea this is. But when I go into audition, I think of it as I'm auditioning to get to the callback. I'm not auditioning for the show.
That's a smart way to think about it.
I am, but like, I do. I go in. I think, especially if it's a show that a ton of people have auditioned for, like Wizard of Oz. Like 80 people came out to audition for that. I mean,
at that point, you're just trying to make it to round 2 so that you can show off what you really got.
Right. Not 80 adults, obviously, but like 40 adults, 30 adults, and I just needed to make it to callbacks. So I walked into that room thinking, I just need to make it to callbacks. And if I can make it to callbacks, that's when I can really show what I'm about.
Oh yeah.
And it worked for Wizard of Oz. It didn't work for Fantastics because there were no callbacks for Fantastics.
There were none.
So sometimes, so maybe I'm changing my philosophy of if it's a huge audition, then just get a callbacks.
But if it's smaller, maybe go for the show.
Maybe, yeah.
Run, Freedom, Run. That's what I auditioned
for
from You're in Town. Oh, God, that was going to bother me. Yeah, that's what I auditioned for Footloose with because it was nice. It's got some higher parts. And I think I might have also done that for Hands on a Hard Body because it had similar, country-ish twang to it with that gospel behind it.
Yeah, I need to listen to You're in Town. Oh, I mean the teen production class at Asheville Community Theater is doing it right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I want to see that.
It's got some great teen actors who will hopefully make it on this podcast at one point or another. But yeah, it's a great cast.
That show is just so good, and it's such a weird one that I thought was super obscure, but it turns out a lot of people know about it. Yeah. I saw it for the first time like 5 or 6 years ago at a high school back in Florida. I had friends that I had graduated, but they were still there, and I went and watched it. And it's a pretty funny show. That Bobby, that's a dream role right there.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I think that Western Carolina did it this past fall, and our good friend Sarah Fowler played piano.
Sarah Fowler was the pianist for that. Yes, I actually, my friend Georgia, who played in Mamma Mia with me as the daughter of Donna. I can't remember her name. She was she was someone in it. I don't remember if she was the main part or just ensemble, but I know she was in it with Sarah. So
all right, so I just have a couple more things that I want to talk to you about. So let's say a teenager or even somebody who's 20 or whatever has seen theater and is now like, hey, I really want to do this. And they come and ask you, what is your advice for this? What advice would you give them any part of theater?
I'd say do it. First off, I would immediately say you don't want to wait and decide against it. Just be like, a lot of people are very nervous about it. And they're like, I don't know. Should I? I don't. It seems like it's so out of my comfort zone. And it might be. But the experience that you get from it even just bonding with people. The connections I've made in theater, I still have almost all of them from Florida now. Still keep up with people on Facebook and social media. And I've made great new friends here all through theater. It's a very tight-knit community and everyone looks out for each other. So if nothing else, you'll get that out of it. If you go there and you decide, oh, this isn't for me. Mm-hmm. But you just have to go in and my advice is it's completely normal to get the jitters and feel nervous. It took me years to get rid of that feeling before an audition or before going on stage. It just comes over time, but it's completely normal to go in and be like, oh no, what's going to happen? And you just got to use it. You got to harness that and go for it. I actually just had a woman at I had an Australia Day party with my boss whose wife is from Australia. And there was a lady there. Her name's Amy. She wants to go out for Little Women. She's never acted in her whole life and was like, should I do it? I'm like, absolutely. You don't want to look back in 5 years and go, what if I just had? What if I had that experience? I think it's just something everyone should do at least once in their life to just get a feel for it. And if nothing else, to learn to respect the actors that are up there doing it constantly because it's a lot more work than you think it is.
Yeah.
It comes off as all smooth and polished and look at us, this is just what I do. But there's a whole lot of work that gets you to that point.
And that's the great thing about community theater, I think. I think it's one of the things that I really enjoy working at Asheville Community Theater because the first show I stage managed there, which was really only the third or fourth show I'd actually ever stage managed. The like lead actor, like mid-40s, never been on stage before, ever. And now he's done 2 or 3, like he did a show at Montford, he did a show down 35 Below, he's auditioning for stuff. And it's just because he was in choir and he just went and did it. I also tell a lot of people who are like, I don't think I can get up there and say those lines. I was like, you'd be surprised. My philosophy is everybody can do theater.
Everybody can do theater. Something in theater. Even
right,
if you don't, if you're really afraid and you want to do backstage,
absolutely.
That's just as important as the people on stage.
I always need crew members. Jill always needs crew members. We
always need crew members.
Maybe except for the show we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. So, yeah, let's actually just go into that. So, tell us about what you have coming up.
I am actually we are about to go into Tech Week, actually, starting tomorrow, of the Fantastics at Asheville Community Theater. We open on the 7th, which is this coming Friday. And then we run all the way until the end of February. I think our last show is on like the 28th or 29th, something like that. I am the part of El Gallo, the narrator and bandit for the show.
Right. Do you know what El Gallo stands for? What that translates into English as?
Actually, I don't.
It's the rooster.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I only know that because I looked it up earlier because I was at a thing at, at UNCA or at ACT. So
that actually makes sense. It's very fitting for the character.
Right. And so this is the Fantastics itself has a really, really long history. Mm-hmm. It's like the longest running musical in off-Broadway like history.
Yeah, for 40 plus years.
Yeah, and then they went off for like 3 years, and then they came back and did another stint off Broadway. And I think when I was researching for auditions, I read they've done something like 17,000 performances. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Even in the list now of longest running shows, it was the longest running off Broadway. It's still, I think, like 12th out of all the shows ever.
Yeah.
So like, Lion King's up there and Phantom, those and Cats, that all beat it. But as far as like an off-Broadway show, it put up a good fight. And I can see why. It's a great show with like really intense music, really beautiful writing. A lot of the writing's done like poetry. And that's a very interesting aspect to try to work on because you don't want to act it like it's poetry.
Right.
You want it to be lines, but it's all, some of them are in verse. So you actually have to find a way to change it and put just the right pauses so that it doesn't feel like it's the month of May. I'm having a great day. You don't want to just, chant it out. You want to actually put emotion behind it and do it. And it's a fun aspect of working on it. Yeah.
And so you have that coming up. So that opens next Friday. It opens on
the 7th. Yeah,
the 7th,
February 7th.
Because there's no telling when this podcast is coming out. Yeah. Hopefully, it's my goal is to do it before opening night or on opening night.
Nice.
And then you have auditions like 2 days later for the Heart. Season auditions.
The 9th season auditions for the Heart are 9th. I'm literally going to finish the show. We're going to do a talk back on Sunday afternoon, right after the show. And then I'm going to book it over to the theater in Waynesville and do that season audition.
Right, and we talked. You touched on it a little bit about your long-term goals in theater. You want to you want to be on Broadway. You want to go to New York. You want to become part of the Equity National Tour. Stuff like that.
I'd like to do. I've thought of all acting. Like I would do TV or movies, but like my heart has always been in the theater. Mm-hmm. I think there's so much more excitement in the thrill of what can go wrong, what can go right. There's just so much that live theater has to offer, and it's such an overlooked art form sometimes. It's come out a lot more in the past couple of years. It's really come to the forefront more, especially with stuff like Hamilton, which is the best-selling soundtrack cast album of all time. It's 6 times platinum. Stuff like that have now, and it's gotten mainstream with the remix that he made. That album. So like stuff like that where he brings in like professional singers and people that are like very well known, like Common and people like that, and have them perform on it because shows are getting more mainstream and getting more recognition for the art form that they are, and it's pretty great.
Yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda is a genius, and so is Alex Lacamoire.
Yes,
who like wrote the music for it and the orchestration. I don't think people bring up his name enough when they talk about
he deserves.
Blake Hamilton.
He deserves more recognition than he gets.
But did you see that Lin-Manuel said that the musical movie of it is going to come out earlier than most people think? This summer, his first show that he did in the Heights is coming out to theaters. I can do an entire podcast on what I feel on how I feel about Lin-Manuel Miranda. Lin-Manuel, if for some odd reason you hear this podcast,
please get in touch.
Please get in touch with me.
We'd have you on it.
And I will have you on it. We could do it over the phone, or I will fly Allegiant up to New York City. Find you in New York City.
Do you know that movie, the Hamilton movie, is actually going to be with the full original Broadway cast?
Yes, and that's amazing.
I am so excited.
That is amazing.
He said in an interview, he's like, everyone that saw the original cast kind of has this little chip on their shoulder, like, oh, well, I saw it with the original cast. He's like, and we're going to take that away.
Yeah.
He's like, everyone's going to see it with the original cast.
And I don't want to get too deep into like my different philosophies on Lin-Manuel, because I literally may do a podcast on just Lin-Manuel.
Do it.
But this whole idea of like, ticket prices are super expensive. I was 10th row in the orchestra when I saw him in New York. I'm not going to say how much I paid for those tickets, but I feel
say too much.
I feel like no, actually, it was worth it.
Oh well, I mean,
was
obviously
absolutely worth it. But I think the one person who's the most angriest about the price of the tickets is Lin-Manuel.
Oh yeah. If it was up to him, he'd definitely knock all those prices down significantly.
Absolutely. So I think this is going to be, because this is my first podcast, and I feel like everybody has like a single question that they like to ask everybody. And I think and people usually do it at the beginning. I think I'm going to do it at the end, and I think this is going to be the question I ask everybody.
Okay, let's hear it.
Why do you do theater?
Wow. That's a good one. I guess the best way I could describe it is the way I feel when I'm doing theater and the way that I reach other people. There's times that I've had like strangers in the community come up and say, "You were in that show. It was so amazing. I loved it. It was my daughter loved it, or my son loved it. My child just thought it was amazing." And there's no feeling like knowing that you've touched someone enough to the point where in a completely random setting like the grocery store, they were so affected that they wanted to come up and talk to you about it. Or like directly after a show when you come out and you see people in the audience crying. Like when I did Quasimodo in Hunchback, at the end when I screamed and just sobbed over her body in my arms, every night I could see people, even on the stage in the show, crying. And just knowing that you can have such a powerful effect on people, it's a really warming feeling. It like really makes me happy, like down in my heart. And to be on stage, everyone says like, well, scuba divers, like the water's my home, and I love being in the sky. I'm a pilot, but like being on stage, it fulfills all of like the emotional and like feelings inside me that I need justified and I need to enjoy and that like come out of me when I'm doing acting. And it's just, I don't know, it's life-changing for me. Just being on stage really warms my soul. It's the best way to say it. It warms my soul.
That's beautiful. And it really is. The stage is a home. Mm-hmm. And not even just because you spend all your time there when you're in rehearsals.
In that case, it's also a home.
There's a feeling you get when you're on stage with people you've gotten to know over the last, 4 to 8 weeks, however long the rehearsal process is.
And like you can really feel it like on the last show. After your final bows, or you're in that last moment, you're doing a song, and you all kind of look at each other and you just feel like you don't want it to end. You know it has to, but it also will never end. You'll always have those people as part of your tribe, your family, your folks.
But sometimes there's a beauty in the ending of a show.
Oh, yeah.
Because
sometimes that last performance is everything.
Because you know that show is never going to be done the same way.
Exactly. I've done, like we said with Wizard of Oz, I've done them. Mm-hmm. Each show is completely different and has completely different memories and different feelings and was done completely differently. And that's the beauty of it, because you'll never, ever do it the same way, even if you do the same exact show.
Yeah.
And that's an awesome thing about theater.
Yeah, I agree. And again, we could probably go another hour
That's
just on
a
that one.
whole nother podcast.
And we may do that. I may have Dillon back on. And this has been so fun.
Ooh, this has been a great time.
Obviously, you and I typically just talk about theater when we get together, but it's fun to just like sit down and
really
get to know more about, because typically our conversations are about theater 5 minutes during our 5-minute breaks,
just
or
real
like
quick
in the dressing room getting ready or stuff like that.
It's nice to be able to like sit down and really
So thanks
break it apart and get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, so thanks for being on the first podcast of Stand By Go.
I'm quite honored. Thank you for bringing me on.
Absolutely. And I definitely see, that I can definitely see myself asking you back on to talk about like different parts of theater and stuff like that.
Feel free. I'd love to come back and do whatever you need.
I only wrote down a few questions.
That caught us going for a while.
Yeah. So that was it. That was our first podcast of Stand By Go. And that's pretty much what it's going to be. It's just going to be me and my friends, or me and people that I meet doing theater around town that I find interesting, to come on and just have a conversation for about an hour to talk about theater in our life and how theater affects our life. And so this podcast is definitely going out on Spotify, and hopefully the podcast through Apple, and hopefully Google Play as well. So after the first one kind of goes out, so that's where you can look for it. Another place that you can look for it is, I will always put it on my Facebook page. I just started a Facebook page for John O'Neill Theater. That's all you have to look. Type in the search bar is John O'Neill Theater. So join me next time. My next podcast will probably come out in a month. Like I said on my intro, that I'm going to hopefully get one out once a month, and then down to twice a month, and then once weekly if I have enough friends out there who want to do it. If you want to be on the podcast, feel free to send me a message on Facebook, either to my personal Facebook if we're friends, or to the John O'Neill Facebook page. Please make sure you like and follow that page so you can see every time that I put something up. You can also find things like shows I'm going to do or auditions around town, because I do think what I'm going to do is put stuff I'm not even involved in, just so people who are friends with me and in the area can find out what to do if they have a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday matinee open and they want to go see live theater. So please come back next time. I don't know who's going to be on it next time, but please make sure you keep coming and listening to Stand By Go.